What is up, homies? My name is Felix and I'm here back again with another video for you all today. And today in this one, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to take your beats and make them more rappable. So make them more suitable, more usable for rappers. So when you're sending your beats out to rappers, or maybe you're even in the studio playing some beats for some people, you're going to get a lot more people using your beats, a lot more placements, and just overall a lot more recognition as a producer. Because trust me, I have been there where I send out, a bunch of beats to rappers and stuff, and I'm like, okay, they got to use at least one of these, and I'll send out like 30 beats, 40 beats or something, and none of them get used, and it's super frustrating. But I'm going to show you how to put an end to that, for the most part here today. So yeah, make sure you guys check out my Instagram and my SoundCloud down in the description below, along with the playlist of songs I produced, my beats from our Discord, all that stuff. Go check it out if you'd like to do so, and now we can get into this video. Okay, so similar to most things in life, this is all about kind of finding a balance. So when you're making beats for rappers and trying to get placements and stuff like that, I know you've probably heard it a million times before, but simplicity is key. It's really important to keep your beats simple, but also still capture like the essence and the vibe of like what you're going for with your beat. Because if you think about it from a rapper's perspective, they don't really want a lot of, complicated stuff within their beats, different counter melodies, bouncing off of each other and stuff like that. Because as an artist, they need room to do their main vocals, to do ad-libs, maybe doubling vocals here and there, to do the chorus, to do the hook, the bridge, all this other stuff that they need to keep in mind. And with all of those vocal things that they're doing, they're actually making melodies with their voice. So if you've already packed your beat with a million different counter melodies and like a million different sections where the melody changes and stuff like that, that's really gonna throw off the rapper, and they're not gonna be able to do what they need to do with their actual voice. Also, the same thing applies if they're more on like some lyrical rap type stuff, but in that case, it's not as much about melodies as it is about rhythm. So in that case, you don't really wanna have a bunch of percussion sounds and distracting hi-hat rolls and whatever other rhythmic things are in there. You wanna keep the beat simple so they can do their thing with their voice and rhythm and melodies and all that other stuff. But like I said, it's about finding a balance, right? Because you could very well just have 4 chords and then a 2-step hi-hat pattern, some claps in there, a couple kicks, and call it a day. But then again, anyone can do that, so why would they come to you for a beat like that? So kind of a good guideline or rule that I like to follow is you want to, basically just make your beat the normal way that you would make your beat. You don't really have to change anything with your beat making process or workflow or anything like that. But one thing that I would recommend is just stop yourself whenever you start adding things that don't actually add to the feel of the beat. So I'm pretty sure most producers do this, where we're sitting there and we're making our beat and then we're just like, oh, this would be cool if I add this in here, or like this would be cool if I add this. Oh, I could add like a crash here, some hi-hat rolls in this spot. If you find yourself adding stuff into your beat just to add stuff, that's probably a good place to, call it a day, wrap it up there on that beat. It kind of just goes back to what I was saying about how you have to think from a rapper's perspective, because us producers are always like, okay, like we have to add this in here, we have to add this in here. But I've seen situations where a producer is making a beat and they're like, okay, I just have to add a kick in here, or like I just have to add an open hat, and the rapper's like, dude, it's good, like just stop adding stuff. Okay, so now that I've explained the whole philosophy of making your beats more rappable, what we're gonna do now is I'm actually gonna go in and show you guys a beat that I have that's way too complicated, and I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna simplify it down and make it to where it's way better for a rapper to actually use. Okay, so I'm gonna be using FL Studio to show you guys this stuff because that's just what I use, but everything I'm gonna be showing you guys here applies to whatever DAW you might be using. Alright, so this is the beat in question today that I'm gonna be breaking down and showing you guys how to make it more usable for rappers. So as you can hear, it doesn't really sound bad or anything, but there's just a lot of stuff going on. It's very, crowded and busy. And like, just try to imagine for a second if there was vocals over this beat, where would they even fit in? Like, what would the melody of the vocals be? It's just really hard to picture there being vocals over this because there's already so much stuff going on. If it's hard for you to imagine vocals over it, it's definitely gonna be hard for a rapper to imagine their own vocals over the beat. So one basic idea that I sometimes follow is that if you have a complicated melody, your drums should be way more simple. And if you have complicated drums, your melody should be way more simple. Now that doesn't mean that your whole beat can't be simple, or you can't have, a moderately simple beat or anything like that, but that's kind of just like a general guideline. But with this beat in particular, the first thing that I'm going to take a look at is the drums all together. So if we just play the drums all together, they sound like this. So obviously a lot going on, right? And it's hard to just look at it and pinpoint like, okay, this is what's wrong, this is what's wrong. But if we go into, let's say, the hi-hats here, for example, first. So with our hi-hats, as you can see, we've got a lot of hi-hat rolls going on, and it's basically just filling like every single beat with a hi-hat roll of some sort. So to be honest with you, what I would do for something like this is literally just delete all of these lower ones. However, if you do want to keep those lower down rolls, if that's like a stylistic choice of yours, maybe just delete this one, and then maybe delete this one here. So we've got, you know, still a touch of that element in there, but it's not, you know, all over the place littering our entire beat. So I'm not sure how common of a problem this is, but I definitely do see from time to time a lot of beginner producers will overcomplicate their open hi-hat pattern by a lot. So this open hat pattern just by itself, it's not super crazy or anything, but when you pair it with the closed hat pattern that we have, it gets very, very crazy. So there's a time and a place to have little open hat stutters and, you know, open hat slides and stuff like this. But for something like this, you kind of have to pick your poison, so I'm gonna just delete a lot of these things that we got going on here. And then another thing you want to keep in mind is not to have your open hat and your closed hi-hats clashing. You can see with the closed hats, there's a roll right here, like pretty much right before the clap. And if we look at our open hat, it's playing in the same spot. So what I'm gonna do is just move this over so that it's not clashing in any sort of way with that closed hat. If you have a couple rolls and open hats playing at the same time, it's not a huge deal, but personally, I would try to minimize it as much as you can. So the other main thing we have here that's causing a lot of commotion is this 808 pattern. So as you can see, it's got a lot of stuff going on here. So we're going to try to take this pattern and simplify it down quite a bit, because you have to remember that your 808 is a melodic instrument, so you have to consider how it's going to fit in with the rest of your melodies. It's up to you if you want to include rolls and stuff like this in your beat. It depends on what else is in your beat and how it sounds and everything like that, but personally I think I'm going to take this one out. Then also I'm going to get rid of this 808 slide, and then I'm going to get rid of this right here too, but we are going to keep this high up note right there. So now our 808 pattern is a lot simpler, but at the same time we're still keeping a lot of the original elements where it's very stuttery with these quick little notes here. So we still have the same general idea, but it's not as chaotic, which is basically what I was talking about in the beginning. So now really the last part of the drums that we have to take a look at is all the little percussion sounds. So that includes all of this stuff right here basically. So that right there by itself, it's not really crazy or anything, but in the context of the rest of the beat, it adds just a little bit too much stuff going on. So what I want to do is just simplify some of this stuff down. So this might be more of a personal preference thing, but one thing that really bothers me is when people have the Beethoven shaker, this sound right here, playing just way too often. Like honestly, I think once every 4 bars is pretty much good. Like you don't really need to go any crazier than that. So I'm just gonna take out this one and just leave this one right here. And then also this little laser blip sound right here. It's a really cool sound and I like using it in a lot of beats, but right here, this placement of it, I'm not really liking very much. So maybe what I'll do here is go in and get rid of the triplet instead. And then I guess we'll just keep this over here like it is, or just do something like that maybe. So we've simplified the drums down quite a bit, but now we obviously can't forget about the melody. So this is how the whole thing sounds together. So to be honest, it's not really that bad. It definitely could be worse. There's mainly like 4 clashing melody sounds in there, but ideally we could just go like this and call it a day. And just have that be our melody. But the part where we really run into a lot of melodies bouncing off each other and creating a lot of different rhythms is when we add in these sounds here. So honestly, I love a good lead sound. You can't go wrong with just a classic sine wave with some portamento on it. But you kind of have to be careful with lead sounds because they can really throw off what an artist is trying to do with their voice and their melodies with their voice and everything. So as much as it pains me to do, I'm gonna get rid of this little lead sound for now. So then the other 2 melody sounds that we've got in here are this one right here and this little bell sound. And as you can see, they're actually following a pretty similar pattern. If we kind of zoom in here, it's kind of going down, that's going up, and that's going down, that's going up a little bit. So I think a good thing to do here would be to take these sounds and just move them over so that we can use these for maybe a little break section. When we have the verse playing, or maybe you could do it for the chorus or the hook or whatever you want to do. But I'm just going to use those sounds to kind of add something new when we bring in a different section for the beat. So one thing I should mention that you probably never will have to worry about is layering. You should never really have to worry about simplifying layers or anything something like that. Because if you're adding layers to a sound, you're not really adding anything new in regards to like melodically or rhythmically, if that makes sense. Alright, so at this point we've pretty much simplified the beat as much as we need to. If you notice, it doesn't really sound super different from the original beat. It basically feels like the exact same beat, but just way cleaner, way more streamlined, a lot less chaotic, and just much more, you know, professional seeming. Which, like I mentioned, is kind of the main goal when you're refining your beats, to make them better for placements and stuff like that. So now that we've made this beat like 10 times more rappable, I'm gonna show you guys a couple tips you can use when you're laying out your beats to get you a lot more placements and, you know, catch people's attention a lot more. So one thing that I see all the time that is just something that you should never do is making your intro way too long. So a lot of times people will have their intro be like this long, and it's like, bro, like nobody's gonna sit there for 40 seconds and listen to the same loop. Even if you're slowly bringing in sounds, like doing something like this maybe, where you bring in that and then have everything come in here, it's still basically the same thing. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of times when rappers are listening to beats, they're not gonna listen to it for 45 seconds straight just waiting for the beat to drop. By that point, they could have already listened to 5 other beats that could be their next hit. You really probably just wanna go with something simple like this, where you start off with your main melody and then just bring in like one sound or something like that, and then just have like your hi-hats come in, and then maybe just the claps come in. This is a pretty standard intro, and most people are gonna be okay with waiting for 20 seconds for your beat to drop. Also, another thing that you shouldn't do is just take your entire beat like this and just copy it over for the next 3 minutes. Because believe me, whoever is listening to your beat is going to get bored after like 30 seconds of listening to the exact same thing on loop. They're going to get bored. So just make sure that pretty much every 8 bars you're bringing in something new. So let's get rid of these melodies, like we're going to get rid of the main melody for the next 8 bars, maybe get rid of this chant, maybe get rid of the Beethoven shaker. So one thing I like to do a lot of times is just make a whole new hi-hat pattern for the next 8 bars. So I'll just do make unique, and then we'll just do a basic 2-step hi-hat pattern. Change it up your hi-hats like that from having a bunch of rolls and stuff to being just a simple 2-step pattern is a really good way to just add some variation and be like, hey, this is a new section in the beat. And then also you could probably get away with just copying these 16 bars like this, and then you pretty much have your whole beat done. You don't need to complicate the layout process, but also make sure you don't have it too simple to where it's just a loop of the exact same thing for 4 minutes. And then also, just because I want to, what I think I'm gonna do is bring this lead sound back in here just for a little bridge. Having one sound that plays for like only 8 bars in your beat is a pretty good way to just add something cool in there, add a nice little touch, and then just bring it right back into the familiar pattern of everything. And the final thing you should keep in mind is not to be super obnoxious with your producer tag. A lot of times you'll hear people who have like a really super loud producer tag right in the beginning of the beat, and it's like, okay, like, do you really need to put that in there? Also, the people who spam their tag throughout the whole beat, like every time the drums drop in, like, bro, come on, we understand that you made the beat, okay? Like, just put it in there once and call it a day. If that annoys me, somebody who's not even rapping over beats, I can guarantee that it's definitely gonna annoy quite a few people who actually are rapping over the beats. Yeah, that is pretty much gonna do it for me in this video today. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments below. Hopefully after watching this video, you guys can get a bunch more placements, get a bunch more rappers on your beats and everything. So yeah, make sure you guys check out my Instagram and my SoundCloud down in the description below, along with the playlist of songs I produce, my beats or my Discord, all that stuff. Go check it out if you wish to do so, and I will see you guys next time.
Sometimes all I seem to have is the answers. Sometimes questions are the only thing they ain't asking. Sunshine, sunlight on my dashboard, my companion. Till my feet ain't cognac, bitch, I'm